Composting has always been at the heart of gardening. It's the way we turn waste into life, scraps into soil, and gardens into self-sustaining ecosystems. But here's a little-known fact. Not all composting methods are equal, and some have even been banned outright. That might sound surprising because we tend to think of composting as universally positive. Yet history shows that certain approaches caused more harm than good, leading to health risks, environmental problems, and in some cases, outright legal restrictions. In this guide, I'm going to walk you through why some composting methods were banned, what those methods were, and what you should do instead to keep your compost safe, efficient, and beneficial for your soil. At its core, composting is a biological process. When done right, high heat and microbial activity destroy harmful organisms while creating nutrient-rich humus. But when done poorly, composting can become a breeding ground for pathogens. One example of this is raw sewage composting, which was practiced in certain areas decades ago. Farmers and gardeners would directly compost or apply untreated human waste to soil, believing it was a cheap fertilizer source. The problem was that without reaching proper temperatures, dangerous pathogens like E. coli, salmonella, and intestinal parasites survived the process. The result was contamination of food crops and outbreaks of disease. That's why many governments outright banned this method unless the waste is treated through strict controlled processes like thermophilic composting or modern biodigesters. Another composting approach that fell out of favor was open dumping, where organic waste piles were left exposed without management. In theory, this is just a very lazy version of composting, but in practice, it led to rodent infestations, foul odors, and leachate, the liquid runoff that pollutes waterways. In urban areas, this became a public health nightmare. Rats, flies, and other pests spread disease, while nearby streams became contaminated with excess nitrogen and harmful bacteria. Municipalities began cracking down on such methods, requiring covered, contained, or otherwise managed compost systems instead. For the home gardener, this is a reminder that tossing scraps in a heap without monitoring moisture, aeration, or balance isn't just ineffective, it can actually be dangerous. Some banned practices didn't involve the whole system but specific materials. For example, many local ordinances restrict adding meat, dairy, or oily foods to backyard compost bins. The reasoning is simple. These materials break down slowly, create strong odors, and attract animals from miles away. In rural areas, that can mean raccoons or coyotes tearing apart bins. In urban zones, it means rats and stray dogs. Over time, regulations discouraged or banned these additions in municipal composting programs to protect public safety and keep systems manageable. For home gardeners, the takeaway is that not all organic matter belongs in your pile, no matter how natural it seems. The bans and restrictions weren't meant to discourage composting altogether. They were about protecting public health and ensuring composting remained a benefit, not a liability. What they teach us is that composting is powerful, but it must be managed responsibly. Maintaining the right balance of greens and browns, keeping moisture consistent, and ensuring aeration allows the pile to heat up and break down safely. High-heat thermophilic composting, vermicomposting, and bokashi fermentation are all methods that, when done properly, avoid the pitfalls of older, riskier practices. As gardeners, we're stewards of the soil. Composting isn't just about recycling scraps, it's about building fertility without causing unintended harm. By learning from the mistakes of the past, we can avoid methods that spread pathogens, attract vermin, or pollute the environment. Instead, we stick with systems that are proven safe, efficient, and sustainable. That's how composting remains a cornerstone of regenerative gardening rather than a public health problem. The history of banned composting methods reminds us that good intentions don't always equal good outcomes. Raw sewage composting and uncontrolled dumping both failed because they didn't prioritize safety and biology. Today we have the knowledge and tools to compost correctly, turning waste into rich organic matter without risking our health or our environment. If you keep your compost pile balanced, hot, and well managed, you'll reap the rewards without repeating the mistakes that led to those bans in the first place. If you found this guide helpful, be sure to subscribe to Botanical Bliss and share it with other gardeners. Together, we can continue composting responsibly and building healthier soil for the future.